Hey there, welcome back. And in this video, I'm going to just talk a bit about why to use a moon calendar and how to use a moon calendar. So one of the things that I love about working with a moon calendar is literally just cultivating that connection with a natural cycle. Um, Depending on where you live, this is something that you might just do. Maybe you walk at night and can connect with the moon every night, and that just might be really natural for you. I personally, sad to say, I'm not a big night person. I do notice the moon. It's not that I'm in bed before it gets dark or anything ridiculous like that, but I do love going out and just connecting with the moon. So the moon calendar doesn't take the place of that, but it also helps to do that because so many times we are going about our lives and forget to literally look up in the sky and appreciate the vastness of this universe that we are a part of and the bizarre mystery of it all, how we are circling around the sun and then we have a moon that's circling around us, and that moon is reflecting the light of the sun and reminding us of that light at the nighttime. And so it's all just very, very cool and just an interesting connection. I mean, I just love that sense of feeling part of something larger, and especially something that is not so constant. Um, but we also have other reasons why we might not be able to connect with the moon. There's times in California where I live where it's extremely smoky, sadly, because it'll be fire season and just can't see the sky. And just having that reminder to be able to connect, and it might be cloudy, maybe you live in an urban area. I know you'd be able to see the moon, but might not be able to experience the whole celestial skies that much. And I think having a moon calendar brings that into our inner world in the same way that having houseplants brings some of that outside in. So just bringing some of that celestial energy inside to get you to tune in to some of those mysterious levels and those things that are in some ways unexplainable, but we're always questing to explain. So that is something that I love. And then, as I mentioned in the first video, I also love connecting with the idea of the ebb and the flow, that the moon isn't constant. There's times when it's totally bright and full. Let me point on this one. And then there's other times where the sky is totally dark because the moon's not reflecting anything back. And then so many different phases in between. And to the more that you work with the moon calendar and tune into those types of energies, the more that you can either cultivate those same types of energies in yourself or just observe them in yourself. That there are times when you might be shining really brightly, or other times when you're feeling a little bit more quiet or rather balanced, or much more energized and go-getter and a little bit more withdrawn. All these types of things that you can kind of correlate to the ebb and flow of energetics and the ebb and flow of light and shadow. That is some of my favorite work to do anyway, and is to tune in into light and shadow and to see, that the moon reminds us of that, of what we are reflecting out, and then what darkness is also there. It's like all this dance of the light and the dark that the working with the moon and working with the moon calendar reminds me of, which is just, also a beautiful practice, because to know that those two energies dance together, just like a yin and yang, the way the white or the light and the dark kind of meet each other and then have pieces of each other in the other, is for me, like sort of a quest for myself. Anytime I get too trying to be too positive or overwrite things or whatever, it's like, no, there's got to be space for grief or sadness and anger, all these other types of emotions, or any shadows and past stories that are lingering there. to allow the two of them. And then same thing, if I'm swinging too far that way, to go, right, there's light. How can I bring that in and see what is shining in my life or shining around me? So the moon calendar just does some general reminding of that for me. And it's also, the moon is a feminine energetic, and to see that ebb and flow of just the feminine and how the masculine is more constant, and there's the sun signs are indicated on the calendar and they hold constant for much longer, that is a beautiful thing to see, especially if you are a woman, to see that that's okay if you're fluctuating or having more emotions or having a bunch more ebb and flow, and maybe there are others around you that are more constant. Now, that doesn't mean that women, that we're the only ones that happens to. Everyone has like what we're calling masculine and feminine type of energetics about you, no matter how you identify as a male or a woman. And so if you are being the more constant one, to go, right, there might be other people around you that are ebbing and flowing, and that's okay. We're not all trying to be the same. We don't all need to be stable and constant and steady. That the two can be working off of each other. And so I love that reminder too from the moon calendar. So the other thing with when you consider using the moon calendar as more of a tool is I like to track certain things on my moon calendar. A really obvious one for women is to track your menstrual cycle on a moon calendar and just see where it falls, how it sinks, how it's spaced out, all of those types of things. But, I have many men who use this moon calendar, many women who have had hysterectomies or have passed into menopause. And there's many other types of things that you can track with a moon calendar. And that just depends on what feels like, if you were tracking it, it would give you information that is useful to you. And you can track multiple things on one calendar. You just have to create your own little thing of symbols. So I'll go into that a bit more. I'll do a video that's specifically on the tracking, but I just wanted to touch on that with this idea of how to work with a moon calendar, is that you can track things on it, where you're literally writing on the moon calendar. And then the other thing that you can do with a moon calendar, why you might want to have a moon calendar, is you can plan certain things just by the phase of the moon. My husband actually does this. He is a ceramic artist and he does these huge firings, and the firings are fairly intense. So they're somewhat agitating, just in the way that anticipating something big coming is like, oh, it's hard to sleep on those nights, thinking about it, just wondering how to all go, yada, yada, all the logistics. And he knows that he is sensitive to the full moon. So he automatically, doesn't sleep as well during the full moon and feels that energy. And it's like, aha, why not sync those two up? So, since he tends to sleep extremely well during the new moon times, when the moon is waning and past that quarter moon, we wouldn't want to jeopardize a really good sleeping time by planning a ceramic firing then, because then you will have spent several cycles not sleeping well. So that is the type of thing that you can use for planning. Now, of course, you can do it for magical practices. You can see when an equinox is coming up if you want to mark one of the big holidays. If you like cleansing your crystals under the moonlight. And I'm a Gemini, so sometimes I just like to tune in and see whatever phase the moon is in, when the moon's going to be in Gemini, because I tend to feel a little bit more heightened then with my communications. Like I write really well, I record videos really well. I don't micromanage it, but there's just some times where I go, I'm curious, and we'll just look at that type of thing. Because I've observed over the years that that has a little subtle difference. Like I feel a little extra spark during Gemini time and like being a little bit more social during the Gemini phases of the moon. So that is really fun. The other reason why I like working with the moon calendar, specifically with the tracking, is that when I track things, it helps me to see reality versus the story that I'm telling myself. We all have, maybe I shouldn't include you in on that. Many of us have this tendency, to um, whether it's exaggerate or we feel like it's real for us, like, oh my God, I always have the worst cramps during my cycle or something like that, just whatever it is. Like I have headaches every month, or whatever type of thing that you're tracking, is when you see reality, you can see if that is true or not. And I know it doesn't make the story more exciting if it's not true, but it makes it more real, so that you can do something about it, be a little bit more proactive and not so dramatic, and not feel like a victim. I have so many practices in my life to try to not fall into that victim mode, and tuning in with natural cycles and the moon cycle have helped to break down a lot of those greatly. And that is some deep work, because you're letting go of a subtle part of yourself that you was part of your identity that you're identifying with, but it ultimately becomes extremely empowering. And I'd much rather be empowered than be a victim. Trust me. I hope that's true for you too. um, but it is interesting the type of work that you have to do with that. And moon calendar is just one tool. I mean, this doesn't replace therapy or anything like that you're bringing in and working with, but it can be a tool for you, not just a passive poster that hangs on the wall that you look at every once in a while and go, oh yeah, I love my moon calendar. It's like it can be fun to turn it into a tool. So that's something that I wanted to mentioned. So I'm going to end that video here so that hopefully you have a few ideas of why working with a moon calendar, because I want to make the idea of tracking with the moon calendar its own little video. So if you have any questions or need to refer back to it, that you can, and keep these lessons manageable as well. I thank you so much for tuning in, and any questions, let me know, because I can either record more videos, I answer them directly, I monitor all of my own comments. You can message me or leave comments below, and we will get that resolved, because I love when tools get in the hands of others using them, because then they get more life, and I learn, you learn, and they become much more useful, not just to you and to me, but to many others. And that's what's fantastic, is we're all here on this journey together, and having our own unique experiences and journeys, but all simultaneously at the same, concurrently. And it's beautiful to learn from each other in that way. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in future videos. Ciao.